Attention all passengers. Wilford Industries wishes you a good morning. The temperature outside is minus 119 degrees Celsius. As we enter the Yukon territory of the former Canada, we remind you, for your personal safety, be prepared to brace. We are 6 years, 9 months, and 26 days from departure. At the tone, the exact time will be 0800 hours. And now, for your listening and viewing pleasure, Wilford Industries is proud to present the latest offering from Dark Loops Productions, The Snowpiercers.
The Snowpiercers, a podcast in which we, the Snowpiercer crew, discuss TNT's fantastic series, Snowpiercer. Sorry for all the Snowpiercers, but that's just kind of where we are. I'm your host, Dr. Scott Jordan, aka Zombie Scotty, cognitive psychologist, philosopher from Illinois State University. And tonight we discuss season 1, general impressions, and then episodes 1 and 2 of season 2. Fellow crew members, please say hi to the audience and let them know a little something about who you are. We'll start with Leandra.
I'm Leandra Paris. I'm assistant professor of school psychology at William & Mary, and I specialize in socially just practices in education, trauma-informed care, and social media stuff.
All right, then we'll go to Sienna.
My name is Sienna Greaves. I am a broadcast radio producer and podcaster specializing in media and culture based out of Chicago, Illinois.
Fantastic.
Chicago, Illinois.
That's all good. And then we'll go to Stanford.
Hello, I'm Dr. Stanford Carpenter. I'm a cultural anthropologist coming to you out of Chicago.
And we are the Snowpiercers. We're the crew you'll be with all 9 episodes, unless we have an after party, which I think we will later on. So I'm just going to lay down the basic plot of Snowpiercer, and then we'll get into what happened in season 1. So basically, due to global warming, scientists shoot something into the atmosphere to supposedly help cool the planet, and it ends up freezing the planet. The only humans left alive, or so we think at this point, are those that are on a train that goes around the world over and over again. And it has 1,001 cars, I believe, when the series starts. So I'm just going to stop there. And we'll just start talking about what we want to talk about season 1. And I'm sure the plot will come out of what we talk about. Oh, by the way, Stanford did this beautiful rendering of the Snowpiercer Dark Loops logo. So thank you for that, Stanford.
You're quite welcome.
All righty. So who wants to say something? Favorite parts of season 1? Favorite character, or just whatever you want to talk about? Okay, I'll jump in. Here's what I loved about season 1. And I, as a writer who's never published a novel, I'm going to start every story I ever write with a detective novel. And the reason I thought it was so brilliant that they started the TV series in season 1 with a detective novel is because we know what detectives do. It doesn't matter where you are, Venus, Jupiter, the moon, Brazil, detectives do the same kind of work. So this allows, this allows us to get characters all over the train with intentions that don't feel like they're coming from a writer, right? And so I thought that was extremely well done. And by episode 6 or 7, we're on to different parts of the plot, but initially we're just in the middle of a detective story that was quite good. I thought I kind of felt like I was watching Law and Order in a sort of sci-fi environment. So I really dug that part of it.
I have to say, one of the things that I find interesting about Snowpiercer is the world building. There's a part of me, and any of you who've seen me talk before, I'm also very hypercritical of world building. When I look at something like Snowpiercer, one of my biggest critiques immediately going into it was, well, if you got this train, right, like you can create a system, but creating an ecosystem, it's just not something that can be really easily created. It's something that emerges organically out of what's there. And so my first thought was, well, seriously, like they're going to create a self-sustaining world in a train. And that's always been my issue with the concept of Snowpiercer. And then halfway through, they actually made the turn that I thought was great, was acknowledging that that all the engineers knew that the ecosystem was breaking apart, that it was not succeeding, that they bought themselves time, but they had not created something that was self-sustaining, and self-sustaining long term. And so I love how what they've done is they've replicated the same problem on the train that you have on the Earth itself, which is we can't do this forever, but we don't know what we can really do to change it. And having that lurking in the background, I find to be incredibly interesting, especially when you start embedding class struggle onto it as well.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome. Like in the movie, they didn't really deal with this issue of sustainability, except for the one piece of the train that they needed to keep going. And that's what the whole plot was built around. I won't spoil it, but you're absolutely right. In this one, pretty soon we learn, I love the part where one of the engineers says, well, yeah, we have perpetual motion, but this computer isn't going to last forever. These parts aren't going to last forever. Right. And then what I love about setting that up is it gets to season 2, or up in the front of the train, you got some people who want Wilford to be part of them because he's got parts, and you got some who don't want because he's got bad parts, right? so I thought the tension building, you're right, was really, really on target. Sienna, what do you think about season 1?
I love season 1. I'm a massive fan of Jennifer Connelly, and I thought the character of Melanie Cavill was just really brilliantly written and brilliantly acted by Jennifer Connelly. One of the interesting things about Melanie's character, I really enjoyed watching sort of her descent into darkness, her taking over Snowpiercer, and her, sort of everything she does, of course, is for the greater good. And she honestly believes that the people of Snowpiercer are better off under Melanie than they would be under Wilford. But she sort of descends. I mean, she's as pathological as he is toward the end of season 1. I mean, you see her torturing Josie, so desperate to, find Leighton, when in the end, it really didn't even matter.
Right.
I found that really, really interesting. And I thought the casting of Snowpiercer was excellent. Obviously, there was a glaring absence of Black women with speaking roles in the show. I mean, apart from Lights, I don't know that there are any other Black women on this train in season 1. And then we have another African-American woman who actually looks very similar to Lights. I think she's an assistant or brakeman, would we say, or a jackboot on Big Alice. Maybe I think she's a jackboot on Big Alice. And that's it. She has very, very few lines. But other than that, I thought the casting was great. Daveed Diggs was fantastic as Andre Layton. I really also enjoyed Allison Wright, who plays Hospitality.
Yeah.
Jennifer Connelly's peer, Ruth. I think Ruth is going to be she is a critical character. I mean, she's sort of the question mark that's sort of, floating over Snowpiercer. It is, as Jennifer Connelly, as Melanie had said, it was very, very important for Andre to get Ruth on side, and I'm interested to see what happens with her character moving forward in season 2.
I love how they sucked me into her character as being so committed to the train, being so committed to hospitality, and being so committed to Wilford, and then recognizing, oh yeah, he's a king and she's British, right? In other words, understanding that they're bringing that monarchy type psychology into her role, which I really didn't just pick up on at the beginning until, later on when Wilford came in. And then she just nails it. I mean, her, in particularly here in season 2, where everybody's roles are a little more ambiguous, and you can tell she's still Team Wilford, where she
all the way 100%. She's going through the train with her communique. It's amazing.
that was awesome. Communicate.
It's not just the communique. It's like, it's from Mr. Wilford. I'm special because I'm carrying the words of Mr. Wilford.
She said, back up.
So
I love Ruth.
when she was signing the letter, and then she was wax sealing it, and then she was putting her perfume on it, did any of you long for the days of real post? There's a ceremony.
I haven't gotten mail in a week, so any post really
There really is something about getting a letter from people, and I always say stuff like, I'm going to start writing more letters, and of course I don't, but
right.
I really liked how much time and energy she put into, writing that communication and then carting it off to the back of the train. How about you, Leandra? Season 2 or season 1, sorry.
Yeah, so I also really enjoyed Ruth. I wasn't, well, I was kind of a fan, but when she takes over the speaker in the middle of the almost derailment, I think you get to see kind of she gets grounded a little bit. And then also when she realizes that Mr. Wilford is dead, or she thinks he's dead, and she has a complete breakdown. That scene with her where she's like, this is all that's up here. Like, he's not here. Look at this crap. Like, this is what I've been worshiping this whole time. I just really enjoyed watching her process that and then cling to ritual. Like, she was a little less rigid about the rituals and the hospitality, pomp, and circumstance until she had Mr. Wilford back. And now it was like, now I have this thing to like grasp onto. And so it's been nice kind of watching that. Clearly, per our conversation before we started this, I'm a huge Leighton fan. Everything about
He's an incredible actor.
He's so good. I love sort of his various ways in which he's kind of commenting on the things that he's seeing without saying a lot. And my favorite part is where you never really know exactly, is he gathering information for the tale? Is he really trying to help solve this case? Is he gonna go with the janitors and do this whole drug, like, what's he gonna do? And like, he kind of keeps it close to the vest even from the audience. You always know he's going to do what I think is the right thing, but even when I don't know what the right thing is, I don't know what he's going to do. And so it was just it's a wonderful thing to kind of see him grapple with that and see him criticize Melanie so harshly and then have to make that decision when he has to cut the train. And so like, for him to kind of also see that, yes, the system is worthy of criticism and it's not working the way that it is, but you still have to be willing to make the sacrifice. You still have to be willing to do that. And so watching him come to terms with that was really fun. But I will say my favorite part was when he basically just stood up and was like, your daughter is a murderer, and just like walks away. Like, he's so over the Folgers and like the whole, they have like a damn aquarium up there and he's, living off rats. Like, so I just, that's not laughable. I don't know why I laughed about that, but.
Well, because it's so true. I mean, the thing is that the firsties, that family, they nail it, right? I mean, if that's not Karen up and coming, I don't know what is. That little girl's sense of entitlement, the fact that she brutally murdered and tortured at least 2 people, I believe, and somehow was able to organize her mind to think that she should get away with it or that she shouldn't be held responsible. And, her parents doing everything they can to make sure she's not. That stuff exists, man.
Yeah, I think Mom and Dad Folger met a fitting end for sure.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, Leandra. That scene where Snowpiercer was so close to derailment and Ruth stepped up to the mic. She is incredibly good at her job.
Yes.
That was a pretty amazing scene. And also the scene when she was speaking to Nolan, and you get a little background story. And she's one of the few people who came onto the train alone. She did not have a partner or a child with her. And then you also find out that she was a former bed and breakfast owner. So she, hospitality is in her blood and it's in her heart.
In a very British
Just her
way.
absolute
I mean,
essence of who Ruth is.
absolutely.
And she's smart. Like Nolan like takes her on this date, and as soon as the Folgers walk in, she's like, mm-hmm.
Okay. Mhm.
Yeah. So like I don't like her obsession with Mr. Wilford, like I would tease her about because I feel like it's not healthy. But she's got more going on than I think they set her up in the beginning. And I think that's always interesting when you slowly get to see someone like she could run the train.
Yep.
Yes.
This series could end with her in charge and I would be happy.
No, that's fantastic. And you're right. Over the course of season one, they made every character complex. So, you start off with Melanie, who you don't really understand why the Tailies are in her back and she's in charge. And you think, okay, like Stanford said, same old world in a different place. And then I don't know if you guys ever felt like you understood her or empathized with her or said, oh, I see why she's doing this. I mean, they did try to do that, but it creates this great tension. We're like, wait a minute, you're ultimately in charge and that's the best you can come up with. But nonetheless, I did like how after the torture scene, she went to the bathroom and threw up. And basically, I think it was shortly after that. I mean, the revolution was kind of, over to some extent, but she just basically said, okay, you do this. I'm not done as in a way that I can respect and tolerate anymore. And so go ahead.
The interesting thing about her is that what they show is that they show the downside of being right. Like, and that's what's interesting about season 2 when we actually see Wilford, right? He comes in and he's like, you stole my train. And you know what? He's right. She stole his train.
Did. I mean, he's mad and he should be.
She stole his motherfucking train.
Yeah.
Well, as a sociopathic capitalist, he stole a lot of wealth to be able to build that train.
Yeah, but however you rationalize it, like I can actually totally key into the grievances of everybody aboard Big Alice, right? The reason why she stole the train is because she's like, we obvious. It's very clear. It becomes very clear very quickly that the reason she stole Big Alice stole Snowpiercer is because she knew that Wilford would be a despot, right? But I love how like she's put in this situation where it's like, okay, but everything that I do to prevent the despot from running the train turns me into a despot.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I thought was really interesting about her character, especially as we start to learn that, oh, she grew up as like a poor farm kid. She didn't come from opulence, right? And that to some degree, she's literally just like pretending to be something she's not on so many levels, right? And then and realizing that it's like and they really bring it home when she ultimately just gives up Snowpiercer to Leighton, because she gives us Snowpiercer to Leighton when she realizes, well, he could do this too, and I don't need this burden. Like I got the sense that it wasn't about anything else but her being like, if anybody else can come along that I think can do it just as well as I will gladly give it over, because this is not worth the heartache, right? And so I thought that was really interesting. But there's also another character in here that we haven't talked about that I think is that I love that they're doing stuff with, is the snow. Like the opening scene where they're punishing the guy and they stick his hand outside and it comes back frozen and they shatter it. This whole thing where like even like their version of the death penalty is they stick someone's head out there, like that it's that cold. They actually like get into what it means when it's that cold. When she goes outside, she has to wear a spacesuit, and just a tiny rip in the spacesuit and her whole like back is blown out, right?
Right.
I think capturing what what the cold means, I find to be really interesting. And I think that I actually feel like in a lot of ways, in all these areas, I feel like the TV show is doing it better than the movie.
Oh, much better. I mean, in the movie, it was one plot, right? Let's have a revolution. And they just keep trying to have that revolution over and over. But in the movie, by starting with Leighton as a protagonist and making him a detective, you know, you said you bring the world into the world. That's exactly what they did. Leighton, as an experienced detective, has been in first class, second class, third class his whole life as a cop. So he knows how to be in these spaces. And then we get to see the world through his eyes. Uh, and, you know, what I like about that is every time he was somewhere, it made sense. I didn't feel like someone was telling me, okay, we got to show you the medical car. Okay, we got to show you third class. It made sense plot wise because he needed to be in those places. I thought that worked really well.
I have a question, and it kind of goes back to what Stanford. And
You say whatever you want. Yeah, yeah.
I actually thought of you, Stanford, in this moment. So there's a point where Melanie says, I am working with what I inherited. Like, this is what he built, and I'm stuck with this as it is. Maybe I missed something, or maybe you can explain to me, because I feel like there's like a world building thing, Stanford, of like, once she had control of Snowpiercer, why did she continue to let it have the class system the way that it does? Like, what was stopping her and the engineers from dismantling that? Like, why leave that in place if you know that it's not, like, why would you just say I got stuck with this?
They created something that was so contained that you couldn't give something to somebody without taking something from somebody else.
Okay.
And that part of how the journey started, right, was a group of people had paid money for tickets. And then a whole group of people who hadn't paid money for tickets bum rushed the place, right?
Well, not just paying money for tickets. The people in first class donated heavily. They paid for Snowpiercer.
Right.
Right. So
now you're on a train.
Way, like, she's got people. No, but she's got people who, yeah, not just paid heavily, but like they paid $1 million for their ticket, and other people who just walked on the train. And so the idea is that if you break that social contract with the upper class, right, you're still breaking a social contract. I mean, it's the fallacy of capitalism, quite frankly, right? But it's one of those things where, like, in a contained environment like that, you know, she didn't plan on having this. Like, the tailies were not planned,
Right?
And I find
exactly.
I find that to be really interesting. And I agree with you. My thing was, I probably, if I was running it, I'd be like, okay, we're all here. However we got here, you know, if you want to have your money back, you can have your money back, and you can go back outside.
Right. That was my thing. Like, you're on a contained train, and I'm not like the tailies I get, but like you have third class and second class, you know what I mean? So I feel like why continue to let the distribution be the way that it is when like you guys are on a freaking train?
Yeah.
It's not like they can go somewhere. And I understand they have personal guards with guns, so like maybe that was what she was doing, but like you have a chance to kind of be like, no, like you're all taking your cycle, you're all going to work, you're all going to make sure the train's functioning.
Well, the thing is that she did inherit this class structure that Wilford didn't necessarily create. The context created because people did jump on the train that didn't have tickets. I don't think Wilford planned for any of that. Once that context was in place, she then did her own revolution that no one knew about. So if she's going to keep Wilford alive, she has to keep the class structure alive. In other words, I thought I was talking to some other people about this because I said, why do these firsties matter? You know, just take them over. Well, because you're still telling people Wilford's alive, and it's once they find out Wilford's not alive, she doesn't need him being alive for the social structure anymore. Then she's basically saying, okay, Leighton, it's yours, right? I mean, I think, and she had to have Ruth bought in, right? I mean, so I think she did inherit it. And I think she did have her own revolution by getting rid of Wilford. And I think she was stuck after that, trying to
there
ahead.
is something else that's not imaginary at all, which is you have 1,000 cars, right? And and this is built into the structure. Like look at like at the upper class, look at how nice those places are. Look at how big those places are. You've only got maybe 50 of those, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they actually have like 50 really nice places, 50 less nice, less, right? So you do run into an issue, like no matter how you deal with it, you do run into an issue of distribution, right? And so to really make that distribution work, you're going to have to literally take apart the structure of first class so that nobody feels like they're getting more than somebody else.
That's a good
Or
point.
you're going to have to.
I didn't think about the physicality of the distribution. Like the class, like physically from train to train, is set up differently. I hadn't thought about that.
Well, that's what they're kind of doing in season 2, putting Leighton in first class, and you can see his tension about being there, right? And then since I don't know, her girlfriend, whatever, is pregnant.
Sarah.
Actually, Leighton needs to be convinced by everyone else that he should be there. But it's clear that he's struggling with these distribution issues. Like, how am I? What? And it's like the French Revolution. Okay, so we chopped the heads off of everybody who was in charge, but what am I going to do different now that I'm in charge, right? And so he sets up a committee and stuff.
Well, the problem is that you have
absolutely nothing. Revolutionaries always make horrible leaders. I mean, we see this time and time again. I mean, he is, whether he likes it or not, sort of setting himself up as the new king of the train.
He declares martial law. He just comes straight out and says, you got to declare martial law. And, same old to a lot of the people in third, right? Exactly. Yeah.
Well, and that's something that kind of bothers me about this, because how is martial law different than what they had before martial law?
I know. I shouldn't laugh, but like, it's a good question.
I mean, it's like, I mean, that is something that always kills me whenever you have people saying, we're declaring martial law. Well, how is that different than the conditions of the revolution?
You're in charge now, and you think, now I need to keep order, and you're confronted with the fact that you can't rail against the system because you are the system. All right. And that change is, I think, something they're managing very well in the show. We saw Melanie kind of give it up. I'm just going to work in the and then Leighton's dealing with being in that spot now. And I think Ruth's going to struggle with it as the season goes on. I like the idea that everybody's kind of been ambiguated, right? Who am I? What's my role? And what does class mean now, right? So,
but they also kind of got out of it by having Wilford show up at the end of season 1, right? Because what they've done is before they have to get about the business of creating this new society, a new villain comes in. The villain comes in, right?
No, you're right. And that all happens conveniently when Miles After Miles is in the engine now. The revolution is coming to a conclusion, and here comes the big bad wolf. If there's a writing moment of convenience, I think that's it, right? That he shows up just as this big change happens, and then his presence adds another dimension to the struggles these people got to go through.
Where is Miles After Miles?
He's in the engine. Well, he was in the engine. I don't know where he is now. Have we?
No, he's still in the engine room.
Have we seen him this season?
I don't know that I remember seeing him in the engine.
He was sitting with what's his face, right? When he started hearing.
Yeah. Remember, they have a child actor, so they have to adhere to child labor laws, which means he can't show up in every episode.
Yeah, but man, it's a train in a snow.
I don't know if I saw him at all.
Apocalypse. There's no child labor laws in the snow apocalypse.
I'm talking Screen Actors Guild.
There you go. That's snowstorm. Okay, I'm with you there. Let me ask you guys this. I have a concern that Sean Bean is going to be the least sophisticated, least interesting character in the show. I mean, he's dropped it.
So good. You really don't think they're going to use it?
Wonderful so far, I think.
Yeah, but he's just another sociopath.
Yeah, that's what Sean Bean does.
I mean,
Come
I'm sure
on.
Wilford has this. I'm sure Wilford is self-made, and it's just like your classic Sean Bean, rags to riches. He grew up on the main streets of London.
no, I'm with you. So
You
look,
know what I mean? Yeah, he's gonna be a
course.
sophisticated, total sociopath.
so all the
And we-
characters last year went through arcs, and there was something about all of them that we could kind of, I guess, like to some extent. They all had some kind of transition. How do you transition a sociopath?
I mean,
Or is he just
you
another
transition
bad
to
guy?
sociopath, but you know, like Stanford said, there is a legitimate grievance for Mr. Wilford and the passengers of Big Alice.
Even like a normal person who was left trackside like that and had a 1001 car train stolen from them is going to develop some psychopathology.
Their entire food supply. I mean, yeah, they're pissed. They're pissed.
I don't
I
know that
mean-
a person would make it to that I'm going to creepily get in bath with you, but
Oh, he was already there, man. He's done that before. Never go into that dude's bathroom, right?
I just like that whole thing. I was like, oh, don't do
That
it.
was sad. Well, that's Stephen King sociopath. You know, all I'm saying is, what I think they might do is try to take his sociopathy as kind of a fulcrum for the allegiances on the train, right? In other words, his character isn't going to change, but his sociopathy that he just runs rampant through the train is going to split the train and make other people change.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I just okay, I hope it works, because I just was so satisfied last season that no one got to be clean, right? Everybody was living in the real world they were in. They were all doing things that someone might in the end want to judge as being bad in our world. And I dug that, right? I dug the complexity in the storytelling, and I'm concerned that, first of all, you know, Boromir's my favorite character in Lord of the Rings, and I'm tired of seeing Sean Bean get the short end of the stick as a villain, right? So anyway, I just wondered what you guys thought about what they're going to do with him.
I
But he
mean,
was not. He was
interesting.
just legit. He was not a villain in Game of Thrones. Oh yeah,
Yeah, he lasted a season.
I mean, he's gonna die. The minute you see Sean Bean on screen, you know he's not making it to the end of Snowpiercer.
Oh my God, Stanford! It took me a hot second for me to be like, who was he in Game of Thrones again? Like,
Oh my gosh.
like he was.
Screen time matters to memory.
Yeah,
right?
it really does. I don't know. Like, I'm okay with it, to be honest. Like, having
Yeah.
someone who is charismatic, who can poke the bear, who can work the system, and really all you're doing is seeing how everyone else reacts. Like, I'm good with that if it's done well. And I think
Yeah.
Sean Bean can pull that off. And he's creepy in a, like, I kind of want to have dinner with you kind of way. Like,
Mhm.
I want to have dinner with you, but I want to go back to my place when I'm done.
Oh,
You
by
know?
the way, I've been putting on my Christmas list for 10, 15 years that I want a smoking jacket. People don't know what I'm talking about. He wears a smoking jacket, and
Where's the smoking jacket? Very.
I still want one. I'm not the
I
sociopath.
make a prediction. I hope this is what happens. I think that Josie is going to end up on Big Alice for treatment for her 3rd-degree burns. And I think that Mr. Wilford will turn her against, she definitely wants to see Melanie get her. I think Josie's going to be gunning for Melanie. I don't think she's going to be very happy when she finds out that Zara is pregnant.
So
And I think that a Wilford Josie team up could be a massive problem for Snowpiercer.
and that just puts Leighton in another bad spot.
Well, Leighton's bad spots are all related to the fact that he sleeps around a lot.
I mean, let's be honest. Yeah.
It is the snow apocalypse, man.
I mean, he's putting the Pierce in Snowpiercer.
Oh. Oh, wow.
We gave him
I
a
lost
demerit for that
face
one, guys.
after that. Like, I went there. I was going there.
Says the man with the train behind him.
But I guess they can see me turning red on YouTube
Oh,
right
we
now.
can. Y'all, I wake my kids up laughing at this. Y'all
The
make me
contrast in the
birthday.
back is pretty stark.
Well, no, but I think that there's something to be like said about what I think is interesting about him is that like he really does like every other episodes there's some new person, and I'm like, that's not the best way to manage your life.
Well, I don't know, man. Are you being a little moralistic right now?
No, I'm saying it's a contained space.
Yeah, I got you. You're right. Okay, so
In a
I will
very,
agree
very
with you.
contained space.
Yeah,
There's no anonymity, and I actually, but I find that interesting because I feel like they're kind of capturing that by having him do that. Is that like
it's messy, that's for sure.
It's like it's not like one of those things where like you just like have a relationship with someone and other people don't know about it, right?
Because you go to the other side of town and go
right. But
exactly.
I actually like the claustrophobia of the train. I mean, what I don't like is when like every once in a while you'll have a scene where like the room seems to be like 80 feet wide and you're like, there is no 80-foot wide space on a train. You know, and I wish they'd actually double down a little more on that. You know, and I also find, and I'm also looking forward to seeing I want to see more about what's happening on Big Alice. Like we know right now that Big Alice does not have much as far as food. If like the people who are living high on the hog are eating Spam, I'm wondering what everyone else is eating, right?
Right.
And so I'm waiting, but at the same time, on Big Alice, they got hella medical care.
Yeah, a little weird on the doctor end of it, but
I love that. They're great.
They're fantastic. I felt like I was watching Doctor Who listening to those two talk, right? They just had that really cool, funky vibe. They obviously come up with amongst themselves over the last 7 years or whatever. That was great.
Yeah, I think they're all crazy on Big Alice. I think they've all got them, honestly. And like, I really want to see what they do with Alex because she's so mad. And
I love her character.
Smart, and clearly
great writing for Alexandra.
Amazing. Alex. I mean, I think what they're doing with her character, like in her relationship with her mom, right? This like that simmering resentment where it's like even if she loves and wants to know her mom, it's like she can't get past that resentment. And I love that I like how they've made it all make sense, right? Like one of my favorite quotes was when Wilford was talking about like you don't know what it's like to be on to lead a train when the lights run out, or when the lights go out, when there's no food. So it's just implying that some real mass atrocities have happened on Big Alice.
And just like any divorced parent, he's talked a bunch of crap. I'm assuming you guys can disagree, but the tension between Wilford and Madeline, is that right? Melanie, I'm sorry. The tension between those two is almost ex-lover level.
I think he wants to just jump across the table and strangle her with his bare hands. But
do you not? I think they may have been former lovers.
It's just two hot people in the same room, Scott.
And therefore, no. I'm just saying
they both have a lot of chemistry. Like those actors have there is definitely a level of like betrayal, but like I think he's so narcissistic that like even if they weren't lovers, I think that's how he would treat her.
Yeah. So
he owned. You know what I mean?
You know, because it's like a "don't you want me, baby" kind of vibe, right? Yeah.
And she did leave him for dead. I mean, even if they weren't lovers.
Yeah.
I'd be pretty bleeping mad.
Well, I had hoped that that's what it was, and I thought, okay, maybe I can rely on maybe I can attribute his weirdness to a betrayed lover in the worst ways. But then when he goes in the tub and gives the guy the straight edge, and it's like, okay, no, this has nothing to do with whether or not she loved him.
Well, wait a second. You can't use you can't say betrayed lover, right? Sean Bean is not a betrayed lover. He is a survivor of like an attempted murder, right? Like And I think that we
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
like start talking about this, right? That villains experience trauma too.
Yes.
And that we're talking about a post-apocalyptic situation where a group of people got left behind. And being left behind is not like, oh crap, I don't get to see the concert with you. It's a slow, horrible death.
Right.
And I think
he doesn't elaborate, but he does say that the crew of Big Alice, they can stand the cold. And he alludes to, they've traveled some rough miles, and God only knows what,
Don't you get I get the impression they're going to unroll some backstory on the moment she let that train go.
Right.
In other words, right now, we don't know what happened. We believe her, right? That he was, and I don't think she's even said what he did. What she says to people is, you don't want him here. He'll take everything that you are. Now, I'm not going to say that's lover talk. It'll just start another argument. But I mean, the level of conviction she has that he's evil and that you don't want him around. They don't explain what he did. So I think they're going to unroll that a little bit. And I hope I'm surprised. I hope it's not just, oh, he was a rich, narcissistic individual jerk. I hope we get something richer. Otherwise, that's how I hope, is that his story is just as good as hers. That's what I hope for, is that, because if they do, kudos, because he comes on screen, he's a middle-aged white millionaire guy who's a sociopath. Okay, like how many times have we seen that? Exactly.
Well, I mean, I think one, the dog does recognize her. So clearly the dog, like they've spent enough time together that the dog is like, but I don't know, because like if they work together building a train to save humanity, they probably do have like
right.
office dog. My other thing about that is it's a lot like what we used to talk about with The Walking Dead, where like if we had saw this story from his perspective from the beginning, would we be on his side? Right? Like would she be the villain? And so I think that like I do hope to go that route of, same thing with Rick being like, you don't want this is bad, this isn't a good system, and then doing something that sort of negates everything that you said in your rationalization for why that person shouldn't be in charge. And so
that's the reason why I had a problem with the tub scene, because once the tub scene is one of those scenes that you throw in there that actually does make it, that does turn him into a black hat mustache twirling villain.
Yeah.
Right. There's some weird sex vibes going on. Like, I don't know, maybe that was just me, but
okay, that scene was all written on purpose to push the boundaries of what creeps us out. I mean, I've never seen anything like that before.
He made him so vulnerable, like having him in a position where he's naked and like making him uncomfortable by getting in there with him. Like everything he did was to drive up the vulnerability and throw him off, like knowing that he's already a traumatized person who's been clearly spent 7 years in a horrible situation. Like, I don't know that we needed to do that.
Okay, now he's had a hospitality, but he did open the door for fruit.
I mean, he did.
I mean,
he did tell them that they were hungry. I mean,
I'm not saying what happened in the tub should have happened, but Wilford knew exactly what had happened.
Right.
I mean, I expected Kevin to die.
Right. Oh yeah, totally. But
I didn't think it was gonna be like
thrown out the back, maybe.
I just think it's interesting that, like on Snowpiercer, the death penalty is they stick your head out in the cold, let it freeze, and then they smash it with a hammer. Whereas on Big Alice, they put you in a nice warm tub.
Let you do it.
No, which is the more humane? No, that's fantastic. So, what do you guys think of this character Pike?
Oh my gosh, I can't stop seeing him as what's his face from Walking Dead, though.
He was one of Negan's henchmen in the Walking Dead.
I just couldn't. I was like, don't trust him. He's gonna try to take over, but I also think he's the perfect opportunist.
He's a floater. Exactly, just floats.
Was he in?
He was in something else. I don't remember what it was.
Y'all know I gotta look it up now.
I know he was. I remember him from Walking Dead.
Was he in Deadwood?
They were all in. I feel like everybody was in.
Oh, by the way, if you guys have all seen Deadwood, I would love the podcast Deadwood episode by episode. I think it's
That's
close
a
to
great, one
the
of the greatest
best
shows
thing
ever made.
ever put on film. Ever put on film. And that was Ian McShane's best work ever.
What I said was unforgettable.
You guys are looking up
He was in
Steve
Westworld.
Ogg.
Yeah, he was
Westworld.
in Westworld.
Oh, he played a henchman in Westworld.
The Tick.
No, I didn't see him in the Tick. I remember him from Walking Dead, where he played, you know, just one of Negan's stooges.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rest of this is not stuff, but
So-
Westworld, you would have recognized him from Westworld.
So the reason I liked what Pike contributed to the story was because he's like a less benevolent dude from The Big Lebowski, right? He likes his weed. He likes to eat. He doesn't really have any political aspirations. He's just floating on the currents of the context. And there are plenty of people in the world like that. And I think if you write a story where it's all major players with big goals and everybody's fight, it's just, you lose the everyman. And I'm not going to say he's the everyman, but I do kind of, because the other guy that might be an everyman is the guy that played the head brakeman, the guy who cut the muffins every day. And
Yeah.
I love that role. I loved his commitment. You know, he's kind of like Ruth. I had a life before. I'm going to live that life here. And I like the fact that, you know, as you were saying earlier, Stanford, you're bringing the world in the train. You've got the world in the train, and you got these people calling out these identities in the space. I thought that was all pretty well done. And I think I'm sorry, but I think the weed brought a little levity to the whole thing.
It did make me laugh. Adam was like, "Oh, there you are," and I was like, "Adam, I would definitely give them more than fruit." Okay.
Exactly.
But I'm also interested in things like, okay, it's been 7 years, right? You know, like, how do they do laundry? How do they do like there are so many like
Third class does laundry.
what?
Probably a train for that.
There's a
There's
laundromat
for
in
that.
third class that we saw in season 1.
Right. I mean, it's just no, but what's interesting is when you start thinking about how do you do laundry on that scale, right? Because now we're doing laundry. We're not doing laundry for like 10, 15 people, right? We're doing laundry for there's at least 1,000 people on that train.
Didn't they say there was 3,000 of them at one point? She was like, "There's 3,000 souls."
Right.
I don't
That
think they're
sounds
giving
about
the
right.
Tailies laundry service, man.
Yeah, the Tailies will. Yeah, you can
Those
count about
400 don't count, but
500. We can, you know.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, what I would like to see on the world building side is to see more reference to the world that evolves in the train. So, like for example, like you have rats on the train. It doesn't make sense to kill the rats on the train. Why? Because the tailies are eating them. Like it's actually like legit food.
Right.
You know, but I think what's interesting is like it's like I want to see more about like what are the unintended things that take root in the train
Right.
that they just have to deal with. You know, like when they do things like it's like, oh, we have this drug going around. It's like I'm like, that's kind of a manufacturer thing that we think of immediately, but it's like the little unintended things, like you know, and like their reference to they actually make a reference to like they had bees on the train and there's a colony collapse, right? So what does that mean? You know, but it's not just what collapses, but what new things grow in there. That's kind of what I want to see.
yeah, that's a good point too, because like you have the night car that everyone assumes is supposed to be some sort of burlesque brothel, but it is actually a place where like the hot commodity is largely grief and processing grief, right? So I think that might be another example of things that we seek now are not what people are fighting for.
Right.
Now that I really like that point, because in order for Melanie to stay in charge, she keeps the Wilford myth alive, and Wilford didn't lead any group grieving. They had to build that contextually in the night car. I mean, that speaks to his sociopathy, I'd argue. No intended reference to current context, but I mean, moments of grieving set the tone for where a group can go, right? And if you don't do that, people are going to find a way. No, I hadn't put those two together because, to be honest, I still experience the night car as a brothel, even though they came right out and said people come here to grieve. I still think of it that way. No, that's a really good point.
Yeah, it's not exactly like a therapy car set up.
No, it's not a therapy car. Well, depends on how you define therapy, I guess. But, yeah. Any other points you guys want to discuss? I mean, we've kind of wrapped episodes 1 and 2 of season 2 into what we've talked about.
Yeah.
There's a scene that contains some tension I thought was well done. Maybe see if you guys want to talk about it. And that's when Wilford is telling Alex to disconnect the train. Mm-hmm. And Melanie is there saying, you don't want to do that. You're going to kill all those people. And Alex is sitting there trying to make up her mind. What's kind of fun about, I think what's going on with Melanie is that she's realizing this woman is smarter than her mother is smarter than this guy. Mm-hmm. And she's learning that, but she's caught in this phase transition between being this in this world or that one, that she actually tries to disconnect the train and she blows up the bomb that Melanie had set off earlier in the episode that I'd forgotten about. And it actually seals the two together. I thought, what a really well-written moment, because now the girl really sees, okay, my mom is way smarter than you. And then
Melanie also sees how far gone her daughter is under Wilford's influence, that she was really willing to disconnect Snowpiercer and let, however many thousands of people freeze to death.
And then she says, bad choice. And the trains fuse together. Mm-hmm. I thought that was just really cool, ironic, like bad choice, because that you're not going to get what you thought you were going to get. And then for
learning moment, I just want to set something up like that, not to that degree clearly, but if as a parent I could have that moment with my kids about something.
Yes.
I love that.
No, I totally understand what you're saying right now. When they get to be 22, that'll happen. You just got to remember everything you did when they were 5.
That's so far away. But yeah, I would agree. I feel like that watching Melanie and Alex interact has been very interesting, because Melanie's clearly so shook and she's been ready to die. She's ready to accept this is what it is. She's ready to be this horrible person because to her, she has nothing else left. She gets to be the martyr who takes the whatever. And now Alex is alive. Like, she has a different purpose. Like, she has something else. And so I really like that tension. I love that they're having this underlying plot of like, tell me what the snow is for. I know you're lying to me. Like, they've got another, and if they work together, they would clearly figure it out much faster. But I don't know. There's something about watching Alex sort of negotiate the world that she's found herself in has been very satisfying.
It's another detective novel, but this time it's science. No, I just you just put it together for me there, right? There's a problem to solve that isn't just the social structure of the train. What do you guys think of the character Zara?
I wanted to talk about Zara next, for sure.
Go ahead.
Isn't really safe anywhere. I am very curious to see how Leighton reacts when he finds out that Melanie forced Zara to, sort of give up Josie. Zara is terrified of everyone and everything.
Right.
Her trying to kill Josie was...
Wow.
That was pretty wild.
And then she actually whispers to her, don't take what's mine, or
That was kind of...
I'm going to tell you right now.
That, and then just to go and tell Leighton that Josie was still alive did not make any sense to me.
What'd you say, Stanford, there?
What I thought was great about that situation is Zara truly needs Josie not to be alive. Like, that is the one loose end that, like, messes up everybody's world, right? And, yeah, she needed to do it.
And she's one of the characters who doesn't do it, right? Like, she has this moment, and she could get away with it. She's a Jane Doe.
You're right.
She could walk away, and she's one of the few characters to be given an opportunity to do something that would probably be better for everyone, and she goes back on it. Like, she can't go through with it. Made me like her a little bit. I didn't like her before that moment.
Well, she's not the kind of person you want to trust in your life, right? And kind of like Pike, she's one of these floaters, right? I mean, all the main characters have all this conviction. Even Ruth has her conviction, and they lean into it in what they do with everyone else. But Zara doesn't have that, and she thinks she does every once in a while, and then changes her mind and does something different. And I just like that they have characters like that in the show, because if it's everybody's got this conviction and everybody's, then it's just, I don't know, it can border on talking to 20% of the population instead of, the world of all kinds of different people. So, all right. Any other questions or comments about season 1 and episodes 1 and 2?
I will say there's one character that caught me off guard. Tilly. When we first meet Tilly, I think she's just going to be like a random plot device. And then she ends up taking a complete 180. Like, to go from, Tilly, she's the, what do they call them? Brakeman.
Yeah.
And like the way you end up seeing this whole thing through her eyes was very, and she's not like a super main character, but she's the one that I feel like changes like the most, almost like drastically, kind of like, I don't know. I like her.
Well, I like the way she.
I thought it was just a minor character that you'd see pop up every now and then, but she's really on the forefront.
I like the way she drug her boss into the revolution. Right? It's like, you got to make a choice, dude, this or that. Because he's just going to eat muffins for the rest of his life, right? And she made it clear to him, and she drug him to their side, and now she's stuck. And I agree. I like what they're doing with her, and we'll see what happens. Anyone else?
She hadn't lost her girlfriend, but I get why it happened.
Have we seen her girlfriend in season 2?
She's dead, isn't she? Didn't she die in the revolution?
I thought she was trying to clean up the area with the tree. Was this before? And like they break up, and she's like, I can't come back from this. Like, we're
we not do, but this, I thought she died. Is Susan Park in the second season?
I don't know.
I don't know.
That is interesting, because I don't remember seeing her die, but that doesn't mean anything.
So, what do you think's going to happen season 2? What do you think is going to be the big play out?
I have no idea. I think Melanie will save the train a couple more times.
Yeah.
Just be the engineer.
I
think I'm interested to see what's going to happen when Miles and Alex meet.
Yes.
How are we going to have these two children of this world when they meet? How is that going to interact? Because that's
especially since they both have similar roles.
Right.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very interested to see what happens with Josie.
Yeah, I am too. Like,
I feel like the doctors Headwood are going to slap their gel on her, and she's going to be healed, and she's going to be really pissed.
Yeah. really pissed.
Really pissed. I mean, it sort of makes sense that Melanie is volunteering to go to the substation. She really needs to get off that train.
She really does.
She really needs to get off that train.
Like, just stay on Big Alice. You got your daughter. Yeah. This guy clearly wants.
I don't know why she was so thirsty to get back on Snowpiercer.
Me either.
Ma'am.
I like that point. It's almost as if she's like, yeah.
I think
when she finds out Josie is alive, I wonder if Melanie is going to try. I mean, it's just, I don't know. Josie's a problem for a lot of people.
For a lot of people.
I think that something's going to happen on that substation. I think that there's going to be other characters from Snowpiercer and Big Alice with her. And I honestly think that they're going to probably play around with being on that substation. There's going to be a B plot in which they are going to start interacting with other survivors. Because I don't think that the only survivors on Earth are on that train.
Right. No, that makes perfect sense. And then you start connecting. I mean, in the movie, they run into a I'm sorry, spoilers, but they run into a polar bear, but
yeah,
they don't develop much outside of Snowpiercer. And
And I think the next threat is going to come from that station.
Yeah.
I mean, I really,
Go ahead.
yeah, I'm very interested to see what happens with Melanie. I like the fact that her character is so morally ambiguous. I guess she's not a hero. She is not. I mean,
no,
she really bleeped up with Josie when Miles and Miles finds out.
Ooch.
As she tried to kill her mother. I mean, their last interaction was, Josie was, I guess we know now, I thought she was dead, but
So did I.
Unconscious.
Yeah.
And Melanie said to put her in compost.
Yep. No, I mean, you're right.
Melanie!
The loose end.
But I think that I think we're just going to see another ratcheting up. I actually think that what's going to happen is that Wilford is going to end up becoming part of the ruling council for Snowpiercer, and it's going to be Melanie, Wilford, and Leighton, and Ruth, and then there's going to be some other bigger bad coming from that station. I think that's what we're going to see, and because I think because that's going to actually destabilize things even more, because now you're going to have kind of a Game of Thrones type crap going on this big council. I don't think that the revolution is sustainable, but I don't think that they can go. I don't think that capitalism is sustainable either.
So you're going to have Wilford basically empowering a significant proportion of Snowpiercer to believe in the Wilford view, whereas Leighton's gonna be representing a different view, and lo and behold, we're gonna have political stagnation, maybe a rush on the engine at some point. I mean, their ability to I would say talk about where we're living now is anything. It's just spot on, right? And I quickly want to talk about Melanie getting off the train. I think she does not like herself right now, right? I mean, she's finding it hard to find a place where she can rest and respect herself. I'm not saying she should be able to or anything like that, but it kind of reminds me of, Frodo at the end of Lord of the Rings, where Bilbo gets on the ship to go off to the Grey Havens, and then Frodo says, dude, I'm coming with you. I just can't be here anymore. And it's not that you don't like people. It's nothing to do with that. It's just that I've done my bit here and I need some respite. I need to be somewhere else. As you were saying, Sienna, she needs to just get off the train.
She needs to get off that train. All right. So I'm sorry. I see
Susan
Park here listed under the main cast of characters for season 2. So I think, she might pop up again.
Oh, Susan Park might show up in season 2. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Who is Jinju?
Yes. Yes. Okay. So any other questions or comments on season 1 or episodes 1 and 2? All righty then. So, go ahead. All
right. Last thing. Is my understanding that was Wilford trying to have Alex slit Leighton's throat?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Which was.
He's really running out of. Yeah. He is really.
That's the problem.
Because
he's not even as bright as the Joker.
No.
I mean, it's just this is what I'm concerned about. Is this they're writing him to be weird and stupid, and
he's not stupid, but he's definitely ham-fisted. And
okay, well said.
Yeah. And then she doesn't do it, so I'm a little worried.
Right.
And then why wasn't Melanie wait, why are you bleeding? Why are with the hand slap? So there's some things going on that I don't quite get the nuance of, and I just assume I'm not smart enough or I missed something. So I'm a little worried about his reaction to her not doing it.
I trust these writers to make these things play out. That's what I do appreciate, is when they introduced ambiguities in season 1, they played out. Doesn't mean that they always made it what I wanted, but they played it out. There weren't a whole lot of loose ends. Or at least if they were loose ends, they were loose ends that could feed into another season. And the main plot line for the season ended. So I'm going to, I trust these writers to get it there. And if they don't, well, then, we'll see if they get a season 3 and, we'll see if we talk about it. Anyone else? Final comments? All right, then. So that about wraps it up for tonight's episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. Crew members, please tell the audience where they can find you on social media, and we will start with Sienna.
You can find me on Twitter at CC Greaves. That's at CICIGREAVES.
Excellent. Stanford.
Yeah. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Clubhouse at SW Carpenter.
Fantastic. Leandra?
You can find me on Twitter at Paris Leandra, at PARRIS Leandra.
Fantastic. And you can find me on Twitter at dark_loops. You can find all episodes of The Snowpiercers at the Dark Loops Productions channel on YouTube. If you'd like to leave feedback about this podcast, please leave it below on this YouTube page or send a message to darkloopsproductions@gmail.com. We'll be sure to read it at the end of our next podcast.
Just for the record, in case anybody is wondering.
Yes, sir.
Our backyard is probably about 18 by about 45 feet. And I dug it all out with a shovel.
Do you mind if I keep that in the podcast?
I'm
very proud of this accomplishment because I did it by myself.
So there it is. All of us to all of you. Big hugs. And remember, see you around. Bye-bye.